is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis coming to you with a quick video. I wanted to let you guys know I got some new merchandise available, not just t-shirt anymore. I got different type of t-shirt, different type of shirts and logos that you can purchase on my spread shirt, and also hoodies now. We have expanded and added more to the channel and more merchandise for the brand. Thanks for supporting. It will be in the description and the links will be in the comment section below. Thanks for helping me and supporting the movement. Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis. I'm going to check out the video. What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis coming to y'all with a video. Another what to expect, a season preview of the Milwaukee Bucks. As you all know, I stay only a couple minutes away from Milwaukee. I live in Wisconsin. And this is a team that has a lot of excitement. New stadium, new coach. You bringing back a team without Jabari Parker, but you have a deeper team. Chris Middleton in a contract year, so you're hoping he can be at least an all-star. He averaged 20 last year for the Milwaukee Bucks, and he was huge for them in the playoffs, doing some crazy numbers. But they did not win and got eliminated in the first round. Something had to change. Something really had to go right in their direction. Didn't really have the best free agency, but this is a team that's banking on internal growth, the development of Giannis, Middleton, and other guys. Another year of chemistry, majority of the same players that was on this roster last year. They're going to be on the roster this year, especially their main starting lineup. Obviously, they're coming back healthy. I feel like one of the worst parts about the Bucks was that 1 minute Middleton was injured, then Jabari was injured, then Jabari was injured. They just could never get on the same page. They just could never get it right because it was always something holding them back. Now, I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon. I'm trying to go to the home opener in the new arena, but I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon because this team has really underperformed. If you look at the team when Jason Kidd took over them, they was one of the worst teams in the NBA. Jason Kidd turned them all the way around, and they was able to make the playoffs the next year. Obviously, they missed it the year after, but Jason Kidd had hip surgery or something, and it kept him out majority of the season. By the time he came back, they was already basically out of the playoff picture. And then last year, obviously, they made the playoffs, but Jason Kidd didn't coach the whole year. They ended up getting his assistant coach to do it. He did enough to get them to the playoffs and get them to a Game 7. But ultimately, they lose to the Boston Celtics, who will go on to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Even though a lot of people thought the Bucks had the best player in the series, which is what I believe too, in Giannis Antetokounmpo. And then you have dominant play from Chris Middleton. All they players just couldn't contribute consistently, and the Boston's players did, especially on the road, and they had home court advantage. They took advantage of that. Even though the Bucks had the advantage of the best player, they played the better team offensively and defensively. They trusted and believed in one another through the whole series, and I was able to help them comfortably beat the Milwaukee Bucks in 7. But the thing about it is, this Bucks team losing that series, coming back with damn near the same starting lineup in the same roster, you're just hoping that Mike Budenholzer is that missing potion. He took the Atlanta Hawks team to the Eastern Conference Finals. Not only did he do that, they won the #1 record. They did lose to LeBron, but they did have a lot of injuries and stuff throughout that playoff run. I didn't think they was going to win anyway, but they did have injuries during that run, which didn't help them either. Obviously, the team got worse and worse as Mike Budenholzer stayed, so his reputation got dampened a little bit because of the losing. But he lost so much talent year after year after year that he did the best he could, and they was able to make the playoffs still before he actually left. So at the end of the day, he is coming into a new environment. He has the best player that he has ever had in Giannis Antetokounmpo since he's been a head coach. And he is a two-way player. He plays with his heart and his soul. He gives it his all. He has been a gym rat. He's been working on his body, working on his game. He went from being a guy that everybody said was up and coming. He's coming, till he finally broke through 2 years ago, averaging 22 points a game, being an all-NBA player. A lot of people put him in that top 15. Obviously, last year he creeps into the top 10 because of his dominance in the beginning of the season, but also leading the Bucks to the playoffs and, basically doing all he can really do offensively and defensively to get this team to win. His biggest thing is that he didn't take over a lot of fourth quarters, being that long, that lanky, and being a mismatch no matter who guards you, whether it's a big or a guard or somebody even a small forward. He's just taller and more bigger than all of them, especially this year, coming into this year. You know, you would like him to will his team to more victories. That's something that LeBron did when he was young. That's something that KD did a lot. Even some of the other superstars in the league, like Chris Paul and them, when it's time for them to be money, they come up with the big plays, whether it's offensively or defensively. But Giannis has not done that yet. And I think that's something that he's going to take a step more into this year, just going out there and just being and if he does that, if they win 50 games, he's going to be in the MVP conversation. Because he was actually in the MVP conversation this year, but he dropped out as the season went on. So I think the biggest thing about this team is just bringing in guys like Brook Lopez, a guy that can protect the paint to a good enough level, add that floor space, and add that post-up ability. He's a modern-day center / power forward-ish. He is tall enough to be a center, but he's not really a rebounder. He's more of an offensive player. But he is a solid rim protector. You add in another stretch with Ersan Ilyasova that can play that 4 position and stretch out and hit threes. And sometimes Giannis can play small ball 5, even though technically he's tall enough to play center. At the end of the day, well, height-wise, he's tall enough to play center. But Ersan can give him some floor space. You still have Thon McCarr, who I think gonna get less minutes because of Ersan and Brook Lopez, but he has been inconsistent, and you do need players that can come in and contribute on a daily basis because your goal is to win as many games as you can to have the best playoff seeding. And Thon has been so hot and so cold, even though he is 21 and he has got a better body and bulked up the last couple years, he still is raw. And you want to win, and Mike Budenholzer is a serious X and O, run this type of defense, run this type of offense coach. And Thon is just too young and too raw to contribute on a daily basis, and he's been showing that throughout his career. So you get veterans that know how to play their role, know how to fit in within an offense, and they know how to make those big winning plays, and that's why you add the veterans like Ersan and Brook Lopez to shore up that front line, but also add versatility to the lineup offensively and defensively, but also have a consistent presence in that paint and, on the perimeter when they are. You also still have Tony Snell. You also still have guys like Zeller. You have guys like Eric Bledsoe, who had really a disappointing season, mostly in the playoffs. He wanted to be on a team that made the playoffs. He wanted to be on a team that can do that. And honestly and truthfully, when he had the opportunity, he didn't really play that well in the playoffs. He wanted to make the playoffs. He wanted to be on the team. And when it came to it, Terry Rozier got the better of him. He averaged 13 points a game, 44% from the field, but he shot 31% from 3, 70 from the free throw line. But that's not what you expect from a guy of his caliber to give you 13 points a game and only 3 rebounds and 3 assists, and that's about it. Especially when you're going against a guy like Terry Rozier, who is not a superstar or all-star point guard. You'll think that Eric Bledsoe will have the matchup and he'll have a chance to really impose his will, but it was the opposite. Terry Rozier was the standout of the series, and Eric Bledsoe was the lowlight of the series. Then you have Matthew Dellavedova, a guy that can't get off the bench, but he's a guy that adds a lot of veteranness and a lot of good defense, good switching, good motor, and he can hit a jump shot every once in a while, but he ended up losing a lot of his playing time with Jason Kidd. Maybe he gets more minutes at that guard position, but you also have Malcolm Brogdon, a guy that was Rookie of the Year, a guy that was injured a lot last year, couldn't really get into the chemistry because they made the Eric Bledsoe trade, plus they changed up the lineups, and then they fired Jason Kidd, so he never really got acclimated this last season. But, having a training camp and preseason, hopefully he can get back healthy in the offseason and just add more to his game. I don't know what he added, but hopefully he did. And that's going to make them more versatile because he can play the point or the 2. He's a good defender, solid three-point shooter, solid playmaker, but he isn't really great at anything else. And those areas he's just good at. Hopefully he can really perfect some of these things in his craft. Dante DiVincenzo, I didn't really like him in Summer League. I went to Summer League. I was at the games. He seemed like he didn't really care if he had the ball. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't attacking. He missed a lot of wide open shots. He just didn't seem comfortable and confident in Summer League. And hopefully that changes going into this season and playing with guys like Middleton and Giannis and Brogdon and Bledsoe that can create shots and easy and open opportunities for him. Maybe he gets more comfortable by getting some easier shots and getting it within the flow of the offense. Remember, Mike Budenholzer is a guy that has great offense and he has great defense, and that's the thing I want to focus on is Mike Budenholzer. That Atlanta Hawks team was one of the best offensive teams we have seen, but they also bought in defensively. Jeff Teague and all those guys like Kyle Korver, Paul Millsap have always been known as a solid defender. Al Horford has always been known as a solid defender. But other than that, the other guys like DeMarre Carroll, they grew and developed, and they also bought into a team concept. I think that's the thing that this team, like I said about the Celtics, why they beat them, I think that's the biggest thing they need to do besides adding to their game and getting more chemistry. They just need to get on the same page because this team is athletic. They are long, they're lanky. They can go big, they can go small, they can go athletic. They have enough shooting now. Not the greatest shooters, but they have enough outside shooting to where and we don't even know what they added in, who got better. Brogdon could have became a better shooter. We don't know what the other players could have became better shooters, but they always did lack that floor spacing, and they always was a mediocre to bad offensive team. I think that's something that Mike Budenholzer can really do is make this team more faster, make them more system-wise, which means a lot of ball movement, a lot of easy plays, a lot of mismatches, and taking advantage of them, whether it's Giannis, whether it's Brook Lopez, or even if it's Bledsoe getting a smaller, littler guard, or even if it's Chris Middleton playing the 2 or the 3, hitting threes, getting in the post-ups like he was doing in the playoffs. I just think that that's the number one thing they need to do is get a system that can utilize all their players and put them in the right positions, put them in the right areas, and get them the easiest opportunities consistently. And I think that's one thing that they failed at. And I think that that's the number one thing that Mike Budenholzer will bring to the table is organizing the offense, utilizing them to their biggest strengths. We seen even when Brad Stevens, for example, came into Boston, they was competitive. They didn't take that long to rebuild. He got the best out of Isaiah Thomas. He got the best out of the team that he could. They even went to the Eastern Conference Finals with Isaiah Thomas being their best player. And with them even losing Gordon Hayward and losing, obviously, Kyrie Irving, he was still able to maximize and utilize the talent that he had to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I feel like this is one of the, on paper, one of the best teams Mike Budenholzer has ever had. And I think this is that job where I feel like when they hired him, he can take them to places that could possibly get them to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, they still will have to beat Boston, Toronto, or even the Sixers. But I think they just as good as the Sixers with Mike Budenholzer. But that talent gap, it do matter. Having the more talent, having the better players, it do kind of, no matter how good of a coach you are, that still can be a defining factor. It just they have a better team, they have better talent. If you look at majority of the championship teams, the best players and the best, top to bottom teams, even if you look at the Cavaliers getting beat 4-1 by the Warriors and then obviously getting swept, or even when they won back-to-back with the Heat, they were so top heavy that it did make a significant difference, especially when they started to fill out the rosters like the Warriors are starting to do now. As they got older and as they continue wanting to chase championships, they kept filling out the rest of the roster with more talent and more veterans. And I feel like they did that adding Ersan, they did that adding Brook Lopez and adding Deladova. That helps they bench be 8, 9, and almost 10, depending on if you think Thon or, a guy like Brogdon that might come off the bench, for example. If you think that, then this team is one of the better teams. I put them right there with the Sixers, the Wizards, and I think the Bucks is right there in that top 6 teams in the East. And it's mostly because of Middleton and Giannis and Mike Budenholzer. But I think that they can beat the Wizards. I think that they can beat the Sixers head-to-head in a 7-game series. But can they beat Toronto? Can they beat Boston? That's going to be the major question, especially since both of those teams are just as well coached as this Bucks team. And like I said, that talent gap do matter. And the Boston Celtics has 3 All-Stars, plus they have great integral pieces that Brad Stevens utilizes and gets the best out of and puts them in areas where they can succeed. But not only that, they're athletic, long, lanky, mobile, and they have star power and they have depth. That's just too much for this Bucks team. I do see them winning 45, 50 at the most. I do see them possibly getting out of the first round depending on what seed they are. I don't really see them guaranteed getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did depending on who they go in the first and the second round. Injuries do matter. Trades do matter. Teams get worse. Teams get better. So I'm not going to count out this Bucks team, but I do think they will be guaranteed one of the top 6 teams in the Eastern Conference with Mike Budenholzer being their head coach. Losing Jabari Parker was semi-big, especially because he can play the 3 or the 4, and he was a guy that can score and handle the ball and create his own offense. That's going to be hard to replace, but that's more touches and minutes you can give to Brogdon. That's more touches and minutes you can give to Brook Lopez and more of the role players, and that makes you more diverse and more harder to guard when you have multiple people that can make shots. Especially when you put them in that type of offense where you're always cutting and moving. That means everybody has to be paying attention. Everybody has to be guarded because they all are a threat on the court. And I think that's what Mike Budenholzer will finally bring to this team. And that's going to probably make them one of the top 10 offenses and defenses in the NBA. And that's something that I didn't really see consistently these last 5 years. And that's why they've been a first round exit and have been a mediocre team at best. I think Budenholzer pushes them in the right direction, gets them to where they really want to be to a certain extent with the talent that they have, but they're still missing that third guy, and they haven't got it out of Bledsoe. Brogdon hasn't been that guy. Makar hasn't became that guy. Brook Lopez, I don't think, is going to be that guy. Jabari Parker wasn't that guy, and that's going to be the defining factor to how great this Bucks team is trying to fill that spot where you got to give Middleton some money. You already pay Giannis. Now you got to find that other guy that fits in with them. If they do keep Middleton, you got to find that guy that can take them to that Boston, Toronto, and Philly level to guarantee that they're really a championship contender in the Eastern Conference. Check out my website, analysisplayground.com. Link will be in the description, comment section below. Check out my Facebook page, analysisplayground.com. Link will be in the description and comment section below. Also, check out my Spreadshirt. You can get all types of merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, jackets, coats, mouse pads, pillowcases, whatever. If you're part of the analysisplayground.com family, why not get some merchandise to support the brand and the movement? Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking. And thanks for supporting the movement with this channel. I appreciate it. Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis, I'm gone. Do you think the Bucks overrated, underrated, trash, garbage? They going to have a mediocre season again? Or do you think they can finally get to that second round, something they haven't did even with Jason Kidd? Or do you think that, hey, there's going to be another year of them getting bounced in the first round? Or do you think Giannis can be dominant and win and be an MVP candidate like last year and finally prove that he's one of those top 5 players as he's getting closer to his prime?